So happy Thursday night, everybody, and welcome to our Thursday night Zoom. I just lost our words tonight. But anyway, so we'll restart. So welcome to Thursday night. We are picking up and doing part 2 of element how we optimize our surroundings. And I believe last week, if I'm correct, we left off right here where we began improving relationships, correct?
Yes. So we had covered managing our experiences, which is, when we talked about your expectations of things, sometimes that can trigger you to have big emotional response or negative thoughts, but just being aware of that. A different way to look at it. And, that wonderful graph on page 136, and then your social consciousness, which is made up of really taking the time to be a good listener and build that skill, but also get rid of the baggage. Remember, we talked about when sometimes someone will say something to you, and if you have a deep history with that person, you might take it the wrong way, especially if it's like a text or an email and there's no emotion involved and you read a bunch of stuff into it that isn't there. Just learning to start building an awareness of that and starting to let go of that bag of stuff and just live in the moment with that person. So that's where we left off, and we'll start off tonight talking about improving relationships. You ready for me to go, Kenny?
Wherever you are.
Dive in? All right, I'm diving in.
Right on. You're all right.
So I love this because he says, one of the critical roles to optimize our relationships is to become better at managing the difficult ones. And so he's already taught us some skills in the last 2 things I talked about, right? In managing expectations. If you have a loved one who has just difficulties navigating life, and you have ever put expectations on them to behave in a certain way, knowing full well they're just not in a place where they're capable of it, emotionally, mentally, physically, and you get disappointed by that, and it triggers a big emotional response. It's just talking about now how we can stop, challenge, and choose in those moments, and we can actually improve our conversations with people. They don't have to be drama filled and excessively stressful. And this is especially we get triggered by this with family members, co-workers, bosses, anyone that you deal with on a regular basis that can be with you in stressful situations or the chaotic parts of your life. I love on the bottom of page 139, Dr. Anderson says, being open, curious, and wanting to understand and learn from another person's perspective is a powerful demonstration to them that you respect and honor the differences you have. Now, I will add a little something to this that he said before we get to that. He said, when we start building the muscles to better manage our stress and better manage our emotions, it really opens up our ability to then improve relationships. If we're not doing well in our personal relationship with ourselves, then we really aren't going to do well in relationships with others. I think I read something beautiful yesterday that had to do with this, and it was saying, it was talking about the importance of loving yourself. And I don't mean that in a vain way, but I just mean not having negative inner self-talk and appreciating who you are and where you are and how far you've come and, and where you want to go. If we don't have that going on for ourselves, we don't have that to give to others. So what I love about this journey is in the healing of myself, it's helped me to be a better friend, a better mom, a better spouse, all of those things. So on page 140, he says, take a moment and pick 5 people who are important in your life and who you'd like to improve your connection with. Maybe it's somebody, one of the people I have listed is my daughter, because when I did this chapter a few years ago, she was in the teenager roll your eye moments, and everything at her age was over the top drama, a lot of drama triangle. So, coming to her and learning to meet her where she is, learning sometimes she just wanted me to listen. She didn't need any of mama's advice. Things like that were really huge in improving our relationship, which then if we improve our relationship with each other, we live with each other, and then that improves our overall health and well-being. Our connections with the people that come into our daily life have a profound effect on our mood, our productivity, and our health and well-being. And so I also want anyone who is a caregiver, that is something else that can really, you're doing something so wonderful. You're being a caregiver, whether it's professionally or just for someone that you love in your life. And that can have a profound effect on our mood because it's emotional, but also because physically and mentally it's very taxing. So learning these skills is really, really wonderful. So another thing, did you want to say something, Kenny? Okay. Another thing is it says, draw your friends close and move away from your accomplices. Okay. So your friends are the people who support you. Your friends are the people who are good listeners. Your friends are the people who understand that you're working towards something better. And an accomplice is someone who actively helps you to get in trouble, to go the wrong direction. They draw you back down in the drama triangle. We talked about things in the drama triangle being a victim, a villain, or a hero. So those accomplices are people that are going to try and draw you back into those roles. When managing your accomplices, make sure that when you're socializing with them, you avoid environments where they can influence your behaviors. So, an example would be if you're trying to get healthy and you're trying to eat better, your accomplices you might not want to hang out with are the ones that always want you to go drinking on Friday nights and Saturday nights. Okay. If you're trying to get better about just, being a better human being, the way you think about others, and you've got a friend who's Miss Gossipy Pants, meeting just her for coffee, maybe it's not a great idea if that's something you're really trying hard not to engage in anymore. Your decision to change your health and improve your well-being is life-changing, but only if you're willing to take responsibility and make some secondary choices that may seem hard right now. So I will say that if you love those people you go out on Friday nights with, Kenny and I both can tell you we had friends that we just, getting together with them and laughing and all of that. We went back to that when we got to a place in our relationship with the nutrition on our journey where we could be with them and we could appreciate the fellowship and have it not pull us into the drinking and the eating that also occurred with them. We got to a place where we could handle that. But there was a time early in our journey where that was too tempting. Next thing you know, you're doing that stuff and you didn't even realize it. And you think, sometimes you have to separate yourself from that for a little while. Just like there's things on the menu that we set to the side when we're doing the 5 and 1 or the 4 and 2, right? Sometimes we either set those friendships to the side, or when we engage with them, it's in a completely different setting, right? Maybe it's one where there's not alcohol and food around. It's one where you're doing something else, right? Avoiding traps. So, that's another one. That's part of that. This is actually also part of healthy surroundings in a way. It's who you're surrounding yourself with, and having a healthy relationship with people might mean that some of those people you set to the side. This is one of Kenny's favorite things to talk about with his clients is you'll have family members that when you're on your journey, maybe food is their love language. And so you're showing up to your birthday and you've said, hey, y'all, you can have a cake for me. I love that. I'll blow out the candles, but I'm not doing that right now. But they give you this, but I made this cake just for you and it's your favorite and you've always eaten this cake. Come on, but you really want to navigate this birthday party without cake. It's something that's important to you. So, the well-meaning grandmother that makes their favorite pie, or, the mom that expects us to eat everything that we're served. It's important to know how to walk with those people and say, I love you so much. And the fact that you took the time to make this for me, and this is my favorite thing, and it always has been, touches my heart. But right now, I am trying to heal and get healthy. And this is something that I have to do. It's a very important step. It's not that I'm not allowed to have it. It's not that I don't, appreciate it, but it's something that I'm setting to the side right now. And you give them a big hug and you go, I'm going to make sure that I give so-and-so some of this cake because they love it too. You've got to learn to navigate that. and not fall prey to feeling guilted into doing something. It's so funny to think your grandmother can be your accomplice, but they absolutely can. So can your spouse. I'm going to say this, and many of you might know this. If you're doing a program because you're ready to get healthy, you're done feeling the way you felt, and your spouse isn't on board, they might be like, let's go out to so-and-so's and do this. Or they might be bringing food into the house that is very tempting to you. And they're eating it in front of you and going, come on, man, you just have one bite. Come on. You have to just be firm with them and just say, look, I know you love me so much. And this is a treat that, we've always enjoyed, but I'm setting that to the side right now because the doctor says, they want me to feel better, and to feel better, which is what I want, I need to do this. Places. The environment around us shapes our daily behavior. I had a client once who, bless her heart, her cubicle was right next to where they would bring donuts and set them down every single week. They would bring the hot donuts in. It was like their thing, Donut Fridays or whatever. So she got the people in the office to move it to the break room so that it didn't have to be on this little thing right next to her cube and be tempting. Although after 2 weeks on program, those donuts weren't tempting anymore anyway. But it's important to build an awareness of that and to go and to be honest with yourself. Here's another thing. The grocery store can be a dangerous place. I've had clients say, you know what? I do that thing where I call and they get all my groceries for me and I just go pick them up, because I am at a point where when I've had a stressful day, I'm still not where I need to be with my stress management. And if I walk through that grocery store, things are going to end up in my cart that don't need to be coming home with me. So that doesn't mean they can't ever go to the grocery store again, but they're recognizing that to build this healthy new habit and to not sabotage even themselves, that's some days that's not a good place. If they're having a stressful week, they're going to order their groceries and go pick them up this week because they know that that's going to be a possible point of weakness if they go into that grocery store. My experience has shown we all learn in different ways, but then there's some important catalysts to enhance your ability to master your new habits. Learning and practicing are important, and you've probably heard about the 10,000 hours that are required to achieve mastery of a particular action. That part is often overlooked, is that it is deliberate practice that makes the difference. It's not, oh, look, I just accidentally did some great stuff this week. You actually have to think about it and have it be deliberate. So we talk about, we're getting off of our autopilot settings, and we do that by we're practicing being conscious of our thoughts, of our emotions, of how we're reacting to things. That's what we're talking about in element 4 and element 5. So right here, Dr. Anderson shows us this is the path we travel on this journey to wellness. We start where we are unconsciously incompetent, which means our autopilot settings stink. And it's just old habits that we don't even realize we do, and stuff ends up down our throat, or we end up blowing up at people or having below the line behavior because it's just an autopilot setting. Then we take ourselves off of autopilot and we start just building an awareness of what we do. These people trigger me. I can't trust myself in this environment yet. On these kind of days, I can't go to the grocery store because I'm going to buy a pint of ice cream and I just know it. You're still incompetent, but you're building an awareness of all of these places that have been sabotaging you, that have been part of your autopilot settings. Now, then you start practicing doing something different, putting those healthy habits in there, and you become consciously competent, right? I'm happy to say I'm pretty much in the consciously competent stage where I am very aware of stuff. I see things before they're about to happen and they don't happen. So I'm competent, right? But our goal is for our autopilot settings to be the healthy, amazing settings, which is being unconsciously competent. It means we're doing so good. We're just wired that's how we're rolling. I hope I get there someday. Been 6 years, not there yet. But I'm working on it, and working in element 4 and 5 have been, Kenny, wouldn't you say these elements have been the biggest game changer for building that conscious competence?
Yeah, and I think for those who are either brand new to this program or maybe you're watching, and some people like to quote diet in the closet. When you do that, you're trying to navigate from being unconsciously incompetent to conscious competence. And guys, there's a process of going through from getting from where you start to success. You've got to take the steps. You've got to take every step in the process. So this is not like an athletic. If you've got athletic ability, you can maybe go a little faster than somebody else. We all have to go through this process where we admit that we're, hey, when I came in 6 years ago, I was 285 pounds. And I was working out 7 days a week at the Y, 14 hours a week. Why can't I lose this weight? But then I realized what I was doing along with my nutrition. And so I became aware that, hey, some of these choices that I was making wasn't serving me well. But those who are in that closet, so to speak, and you go to work and I'm not going to tell anybody about what I'm doing. Well, how are you going to make changes long term if you don't let those around you know what you're doing, so that you create awareness within them, and it makes your journey to that place you want to be a little bit easier. It just like you said, your friend Nate, here again, I know Allie's trying to get healthy. I'm not going to take the donuts and stick them underneath her nose. Will they try you every now and then? Yes, because that's just what they like to do. But that's just going to happen. But if you're not firm with where you're at in your journey and open to sharing, hey, this is important to me and I want you to respect it. And if you don't set up that boundary, they're going to constantly cross it. And it's going to create friction amongst you at work or at home or wherever. And just like, we talked in the past about setting up your pantry for success, whether you've got your fuelings on the back of the door, or do you have your fuelings on the same shelf where your kids' cookies are? Just use that as an example. If you set your pantry up for success, that way it's easier for you to get to the items that you need, and you're not in there digging through everything, digging through the peanut butter and all the good stuff to get to the s'mores bars at the back. You set yourself up for more success, but in that process too, you become more aware of what's good for you and what's not. And especially when you first start, because just like Allie said, once you get to the place where her and myself are at, it's easier for us to say, hey, if I've got an unhealthy option in the pantry, I can skip right over that when the time is right. Will I make a choice every now and then? Yes. But I don't make those choices like I used to because I'm not in that diet closet. And I think that's important for so many people, just to really stop telling yourself that you've got to be quiet about what you're doing and share with others. That way you encourage and maybe even inspire them to come alongside you. And you create that community of awareness around you. That way you don't have those saboteurs, constantly, those accomplices in your corner. Go ahead, Alan.
100% agree with that. So if you look on the bottom of page 144, having like-minded people around you is a powerful motivator. I will tell you, for me, Kenny and I will, we have done this book club every Thursday night for 2.5 years. So for 2.5 years, and there have been times, in this, a lot of life has happened. Kids have graduated and gone off, parents have gotten sick, we've gotten sick, all kinds of stuff. But coming here and being surrounded by this community and going through this book together as a group is a huge part of what has kept Kenny and I on track. There's no magic to it. And in full disclosure, I'm not always, it's Thursday night and I'm tired and I'm not always like, woo, but every time I come in here, I love it. And I'm so thankful and grateful I did it. So, I even have that old mindset of, oh, why would you want to, but then I get in here and I learn so much, even though I've done this so many times. So, whether it's a drill sergeant, a cheerleader, or getting the occasional encouraging word from a friend, it's so nice to be around people who desire to prove their health and their lives alongside you. And the people who did that with me were the ones who were inspired by me. And then that got them to go, darn it, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. And then they're talking to me all the time and I'm talking to them all the time. And we're getting so pumped. And then it's getting people in their circles excited. And then you have this incredible community around you that lifts you up, even if it's just on here. Val's not going outside right now. It's 2 degrees. Val's not going anywhere. But Val knows she can come in here and have this wonderful community of support. Kenny, did you want to say something else?
Well, and I mean, he says it right here on page 145, the second paragraph from the bottom. I have found that clients who are plugged into our community have a much higher rate of success. Bam. I mean, that's it right there. You're either plugged in and you're winning, or you're off in your rabbit hole and your integrity starts to fall off.
If you are alone, then you fail alone and potentially might give up. If you're plugged in and you fail, you're encouraged, inspired, and reminded that failure is not an end point. Failure is a place of learning. Failure is where when we hit that, we go, well, why am I failing? Oh, I got to get past this obstacle. Then you get past something that's been keeping you stuck in the same place for years. Failure, we celebrate failure. We love obstacles because you don't learn anything if everything's roses. That's why those things, it's like gastric bypass, or if if there was a magic pill you could eat and lose all the weight and not have to change anything about anything else. The minute you stop doing that, you will gain the weight back. I think I read something the other day that said, I feel it was like 85% of people who have the gastric bypass gain all the weight back. And it's because, y'all, the health of this is driven by the supercomputer. If you don't address what's going on in the supercomputer, just changing what you eat or just trying to kill yourself at the gym, that's not going to make the difference. There's too many other factors involved up here. I mean, like, y'all, we're talking about relationships with people. You're like, what does that have to do? Everything. It has to do with everything. The relationship with yourself, the relationship with others has to do with your overall health and wellness. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is so important. On page 146, you can see you've got environmental stress and you've got personal stress. Okay. And so if we can start doing the things we need to do in here to help process our environmental stress, so we're making healthier surroundings, right? And then our personal stress, we're learning how to, that practice that above the line behavior. We're building that, conscious incompetent to conscious competent behavior. Like it said, I love this question, page 146. What is your kryptonite? If y'all have been with me for the last 2.5 years, you should know my kryptonite is, Kenny, do you know what my kryptonite is? Chips. It's chips. I cannot ever have chips in the house or crackers again because I have no self-control with that. It's good to know my kryptonite. It doesn't mean I don't ever have it, but I can't have it, available to me on a whim or on a weak moment or on a difficult day. So it does not come into this house. What things, places, or persons have the tendency to throw you off your game? Y'all, start building an awareness of that. That's the first step. Just build an awareness of what things, places, or persons have a tendency to throw you off your game. Then you can start unpacking why, and then you can build up a way, above the line way, to get curious and creative on how to make it so that when those person, place, or things around, they don't shift what you want and what you're trying to build. One of the last things, Kenny, I ought to let you talk about this one because this is your favorite, the electronic leash.
Yeah, the electronic leash. I mean, he says one of the distractions that has crept into modern life, of course, is our digital devices. And so, yes, cell phone usage is definitely up, especially amongst young folks. And we wonder why kids struggle so much in school with their attention span, because if they're on TikTok or Facebook, they're constantly doing this. What's next? What's next? What's next? It's almost, and there was a meme going around of the grandparents at the casino, and they're all sitting there hitting the buttons as fast as they can. The kids are on their phone, and so we're constantly looking for that next dopamine hit. So, he said our attention spans have dropped over the last decade from 12 to 8 seconds, which is shorter than that of a goldfish. So how many of you think about this? 40 years ago, we had 3 channels if you were lucky, 6, 8, and 12 in Virginia. But now you've got hundreds to sit there and click and click and click and click. And I was one of those people who used to sit there for 20 minutes and then finally I'd go, and I'd watch the same old thing again, but it was a time waster. And the phones tend to be the same thing. That same, unless you're purpose driven or maybe you've got something broken and now we can YouTube these things to figure out, like our refrigerator froze up last night. So I had to figure out how to take things apart. So that was a purpose-driven moment, but it wasn't a time-wasting moment. But I mean, he says, check the boxes as you adopt these basic techniques that are your micro habits that can improve your relationship with your electronic devices. Turning off notifications. A lot of people don't know how to do that. So their phone is constantly dinging in their ear, and that would drive me insane very quickly. So that's something, if you're not sure how to do, look into that. Perform a phone stack at lunches and dinners. We do that at home. So when we eat dinner, a lot of times we all come in the house at different times. And so I try to plan, because I do all the cooking at home. So when Julie's home, we eat dinner, kids come in and I say, phone's on the table or phone's over there. I make them do that for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever time frame we need so that we can eat, chat about our day, and just live in the moment and not sit there doing this. Changing your screen to black and white, which will decrease the appeal and vibrancy that continually grabs our attention. Take periods during the day that are digital free times, whether it's time when you're walking or maybe, whatever activity that you're trying to get accomplished during the day, pick an activity where you can put the phone down and detach from it.
I lose my phone all the time. So my digital free times are on accident. I'll put it down in one room and wander off to go do something and then be like, what? Where did I put my phone? And I could have 30 minutes of digital free time just looking for my stupid phone.
Yeah. And I've coached some clients who had high pressure jobs in DC. And so they're so busy and wrapped up at work. And I'm like, you get a lunch break? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing your lunch break? I'm sitting at my desk on my phone. I'm like, what are you doing on your phone? Well, I'm checking emails from work. I'm like, so you're telling me you're working during your lunch break and you're not getting paid, correct? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, you need to put the phone down and go outside and walk. And so the ones that I have done that with, they suddenly find that just by getting out of the office, middle of the day, no matter what the weather is, they make it an activity to do it, whether it's walk in the office building or walk outside. They go outside, they change their frequency because they're in that work mode. And then they go outside, breathe the fresh air, look at the trees and be a normal human being. And then they're like, man, that feels really refreshing. Then they can come back in and get more accomplished when they do that instead of shoveling their face full of nabs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're not having healthy choices. And then, they're stressed up because of work. Make your bedroom digital free. Oh, that's so hard for so many people.
Not me, man. I do not bring that thing. I plug it in the family room and I go up to bed.
Absolutely.
It'll be there in the morning.
Yep. Stop multitasking and focus on one screen at a time. Now, I've seen here again, years ago, there was just one screen, but now you'll see offices with 3 and 4 screens. It's almost like they're working the stock market or whatever it is. So that can be a big distraction. Read a book on paper rather than digitally. And so that's one of the great things about having, just like Alice said,
that's the power. A good one.
Reading that book and just taking some notes and kind of using some time every day to invest in yourself is so important. And so many people just tend to peruse over that. They skip it. They think they don't need it, but we all need to do that to invest back in ourselves so that we can, move forward in our journey.
And I want to say something really quick about that, Kenny. The other thing that I love about reading a book that's like a personal growth and development book, and make it be something that you're interested in learning about, like about yourself. But what I love that is it is mental food. So just like when you put good nutrition in your body and then your organs start running right, when we put good mental nutrition into our brain, our thoughts change, the things that we're milling about, we're not worrying about what Captain Steubing did on the Love Boat. We are thinking about, something like, oh my gosh, I never thought about this, one of these things like in here, like just, it gives you really good stuff to focus on and to think about and to maybe even apply to what you're doing in your personal wellness journey. And it's just so much better. It's so much better for you to ruminate on good stuff that's helping you grow rather than on stuff that's not. Like I have elderly, when I say they're elderly, they're older parents, and they spend too much time watching the news. I'm like, y'all get away from the news. Go read a good book. They don't need that stuff going on around in their head. They need to put something good in their head. We all do.
And the last thing he says on page 160 or 147 is use the 20-20-20 rule. Look up from your device every 20 minutes. Look 20 feet away for 20 seconds. So, if you're having to engage in your phone for work emails or whatever, make it a habit every 20 minutes to look away, and just to kind of give your body and your brain and your blood pressure time to kind of reset and refresh. And then it says, in conclusion, what is the main keystone behavior that seems to make everything fall into place for you? Is it, for some of us, it's just becoming aware. Hey, I'm aware that when this happens, I respond this way. So when you start creating those awarenesses and you recognize those behaviors, how do you respond? If you're that one that's in the closet, then you're in denial that you're even trying to get healthy. So how does that make you feel? Do you think that's an open, above the line behavior, or are you closed off and defensive because you're in your closet? Think about that. The beauty of your life book is that you are now able to start identifying the patterns and things that get in your way. You can address those areas and have a preemptive plan. When you find something that typically throws you off, you can now say, if blank blank happens, I will now choose to fill in the dots. So provide this contingency allows you to have an automatic response, so that it's easy to avoid activating the go system, and allows you to make stop, challenge, and choose almost automatic. This is where you begin to practice going around that circle that Allie just talked about, where you can go from being unconsciously incompetent to establishing that pattern of being conscious competence, or later mastering it and becoming unconsciously competent.
Our thoughts stir up our emotions, and our emotions dictate our actions. Okay, so think about that. Our thoughts trigger our emotions, which then trigger our actions. So if your thoughts are negative, then that's going to trigger a negative emotion, and then that's going to make us either freeze or be fearful or not want to do something. So whenever you have a thought that is holding you back from doing something that's important to you, let's build that awareness. Let's pause and go, where is this thought coming from? Why don't I want to share, my joy? Or why don't I want to tell grandma why I'm not having her cake? Like, am I having trouble? Do I need to communicate better? Like, what is it that's making this hard, so I can get to a good place with this, right? So that I can have a happy emotion. And then that having a happy emotion or a positive emotion, it helps you keep going with your actions in the right direction. So, it starts with our thoughts. And that's why I love, not being, like my parents not being on the news all the time. They get away from all that negativity. They do something beautiful. They read scripture or whatever that puts them in a great place, that brings different emotions, and that drives their actions to be happy and peaceful and calm in their retirement. So, this is so important. We don't make these connections, but we have got to start building awareness of our thoughts, and we have to challenge them, stop, challenge, and choose. Pause in those moments when we're having certain thoughts. Ask yourself if they're real. Ask yourself where you think they're coming from. Start to take them apart, so that it doesn't have to stir up an emotion that drives an action that sabotages what you want to do with your wellness.